Okay, welcome back to The Witness. So, last time we activated this first laser, and it went to the top of the mountain, and we are going to go ahead and see what's up there. But first, I think what we should do is check out something that I missed. There was a loose panel over here that I completely ignored. So I want to go back and take care of that. And to get there, we run up these rocks here, and then we can make our way onto this building. Continue behind the back here. We have another one of these loose panels here. So again, we can go ahead and solve this. And it looks like that works. And that works too. So we had the idea that one triangle means you can only pass it on one side, but in this case it only actually allows you to pass it on two. So for the time being that rule works, but we have no other way to disprove it as of right now. So that's the only thing that I missed. So let's go ahead and now, oops, wrong way. Let's start heading our way up to the mountain. And we're going to be running past a lot of stuff. But that's okay. We will be back. Here's that little town we spied earlier. And here's the path that'll start taking us up the mountain. So, I'm going to go ahead and shut up. And let's take a little hike.
The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Whoever does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead and his eyes are dimmed. It was the experience of mystery, even if mixed with fear, that engendered religion. A knowledge of the existence of something we cannot penetrate, our perceptions of the profoundest reason and the most radiant beauty, which only in their most primitive forms are accessible to our minds. It is this knowledge and this emotion that constitute true religiosity. In this sense, and in this alone, I am a deeply religious man. I cannot conceive of a God who rewards and punishes his creatures, or has a will of the kind that we experience in ourselves. Neither can I, nor would I, want to conceive of an individual that survives his physical death. Let feeble souls, from fear or absurd egoism, cherish such thoughts. I am satisfied with the mystery of the eternity of life, and with the awareness and a glimpse of the marvelous structure of the existing world, together with the devoted striving to comprehend a portion, be it ever so tiny, of the reason that manifests itself in nature. Albert Einstein, 1931.
And here we have one more panel with this triangle thing. So we can finally look at this rule. So in this case, we're passing it by 3 sides, and it says wrong. But if we pass it by 1 side, it's correct. So we've learned enough to know that that rule works. That was this little side area here. So let's go back and continue up the main path. So in here is another secret door, and we can solve this puzzle because we know the rules. This is another mirrored puzzle, but it's invisible, and so the invisible yellow line will be here. We know how to deal with the dots, and we know how to deal with the black and white squares. So So if we come here, we'll collect the yellow dot in the top right corner. Then we collect this. We can capture the black square in the top right. Right? I think. There we go. And we have another little code here. We will use those codes soon enough. Reached the top, and now we're starting to see these sculptures or frozen people. It's not entirely clear, really. But that laser apparently has opened up one latch. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more to go. While we're up here, here's another one of these.
Up there, you go around every hour and a half, time after time after time. You wake up usually in the mornings, and just the way that the track of your orbits go, you wake up over the Mideast, over North Africa. As you eat breakfast, you look out the window as you're going past, and there's the Mediterranean area, and Greece, and Rome, and North Africa, and the Sinai, the whole area. And you realize that in one glance, that what you're seeing is what was the whole history of man for years, the cradle of civilization. And you go around down across North Africa and out over the Indian Ocean, and look up at that great subcontinent of India, pointed down toward you as you go past it. And Ceylon off to the side, Burma, Southeast Asia, out over the Philippines, and up across that monstrous Pacific Ocean. Vast body of water. You've never realized how big that is before. And you finally come up across the coast of California and look for those friendly things. Los Angeles and Phoenix, and on across El Paso. And there's Houston. There's home. And you look, and sure enough, there's the Astrodome. And you identify with that, you know? It's an attachment. And down across New Orleans, and then looking down to the south, and there's the whole peninsula of Florida laid out. And all the hundreds of hours you spent flying across that route, down in the atmosphere, all that is friendly again. And you go out across the Atlantic Ocean and back across Africa. And you do it again and again and again. And that identity, that you identify with Houston, and then you identify with Los Angeles, and Phoenix, and New Orleans, and everything. And the next thing you recognize in yourself is you're identifying with North Africa. You look forward to that. You anticipate it. And there it is. That whole process begins to shift of what it is you identify with. When you go around it in an hour and a half, you begin to recognize that your identity is with that whole thing. And that makes a change. You look down there, and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you crossed again and again and again. And you don't even see them. At that wake-up scene, the Mideast, you know there are hundreds of people killing each other over some imaginary line that you can't see. From where you see it, the thing is a whole, and it's so beautiful. And you wish you could take one from each side in hand and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important? And so a little later on, your friend, again those same neighbors, another astronaut, the person next to you goes out to the moon. And now he looks back and sees the Earth not as something big where he can see the beautiful details, but he sees the Earth as a small thing out there. And now that contrast between that bright blue and white Christmas tree ornament and that black sky, that infinite universe, really comes through. The size of it, the significance of it, it becomes both things. It becomes so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and war and death and birth and love, tears, joy, games, all of it is on that little spot out there that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize that that perspective, that you've changed, that there's something new there. That relationship is no longer what it was. And then you look back on the time when you were outside on that EVA and those few moments that you had the time because the camera malfunctioned, that you had the time to think about what was happening. And you recall staring out there at the spectacle that went before your eyes. Because now, you're no longer inside something with a window looking out at a picture. But now you're out there, and what you've got around your head is a goldfish bowl, and there are no limits here. There are no frames. There are no boundaries. You're really out there, over it, floating, going 25,000 miles per hour, ripping through space, a vacuum, and there's not a sound. There's a silence, the depth of which you've never experienced before. And that silence contrasts so markedly with the scenery and the speed with which you know you're going. That contrast, the mix of those two things, really comes through. And you think about what you're experiencing and why. Do you deserve this? This fantastic experience? Have you earned this in some way? Are you separated out to be touched by God to have some special experience here that other men cannot have? You know the answer to that is no. There's nothing that you've done that deserves that earned that. It's not a special thing for you. You know very well at that moment, and it comes through to you so powerfully that you're the sensing element for man. You look down and see the surface of that globe that you've lived on all this time, and you know all those people down there. They are like you. They are you. And somehow you represent them when you are up there. A sensing element. That point out on the end. And that's a humbling feeling. It's a feeling that says you have a responsibility. It's not for yourself. The eye that doesn't see does not do justice to the body. That's why it's there. That's why you're out there. And somehow you recognize that you're a piece of this total life. You're out on that forefront and you have to bring that back somehow. And that becomes a rather special responsibility. It tells you something about your relationship with this thing we call life. And when you come back, there's a difference in that world now. There's a difference in that relationship between you and that planet, and you and all those other forms of life on that planet, because you've had that kind of experience. It's a difference, and it's so precious. And all through this, I've used the word you because it's not me. It's not Dave Scott. It's not Dick Gordon, Pete Conrad, John Glenn. It's you. It's us. It's we. It's life. It's had that experience. And it's not just my problem to integrate. It's not my challenge to integrate, my joy to integrate. It's yours. It's everybody's. Russell Schweikart, 1975.
Woo! That was a long one. Okay, and there's actually a few more little statues here we can look at. I think there's a couple more over here. But ultimately, we should notice this too. So, this should seem very strange. We solve it and it doesn't do anything. But if you just tilt yourself a little bit, you'll see this. And this is where you're supposed to have that kind of giant, like, light bulb moment, like, oh my god. And when you do this, oops, not that. Boom. That's an environmental puzzle. So, knowing what we now know, and what I like, remember what I said before too, that like nothing in this world is random, that it's put together with complete intention, the placement of everything. We can go back to the very beginning of the game and find a bunch of things that we missed right under our nose. You know, now that I think about it, I should have done that and then played the audio recording and then walked back. That would have made a lot more sense. But, it's all good. In fact, maybe what we'll do is down here, here's another audio log. I think. No, not here. It's on the beach. Somewhere around here. We can listen to this as we're moving up. Back to the beginning. There it is.
One day I happened to be occupied with the subject of generation of waves by wind. I took down the standard treatise on hydrodynamics, and under that heading I read, if the external forces P prime sub YY, P prime sub XY be given multiples of e to the ikx plus at, where k and a are prescribed, the equations in question determine a and c, and thence, by 9, the value of eta. And so on for 2 pages. At the end, it is made clear that a wind of less than half a mile an hour will leave the surface unruffled. At a mile an hour, the surface is covered with minute corrugations due to capillary waves which decay immediately if the disturbing cause ceases. At 2 miles an hour, the gravity waves appear. As the author modestly concludes, our theoretical investigations give considerable insight into the incipient stages of wave formation. On another occasion, the same subject of generation of waves by wind was in my mind, but this time another book was more appropriate, and I read, "There are waters blown by changing winds to laughter, and lit by the rich skies all day, and after, frost, with a gesture, stays the waves that dance, and wandering loveliness. He leaves a white, unbroken glory, a gathered radiance, a width, a shining peace under the night." The magic words bring back the scene. Again, we feel nature drawing close to us, uniting with us, till we are filled with the gladness of the waves dancing in the sunshine, with the awe of the moonlight on the frozen lake. These were not moments when we fell below ourselves. We did not look back on them and say, "It was disgraceful for a man with 6 sober senses and a scientific understanding to let himself be deluded in that way. I will take Lamb's hydrodynamics with me next time." It is good that there should be such moments for us. Life would be stunted and narrow if we could feel no significance in the world around us beyond that which can be weighed and measured with the tools of the physicist or described by the metrical symbols of the mathematician. Of course, it was an illusion. We can easily expose the rather clumsy trick that was played on us. Ethereal vibrations of various wavelengths, reflected at different angles from the disturbed interface between air and water, reached our eyes, and by photoelectric action caused appropriate stimuli to travel along the optic nerves to a brain center. Here, the mind set to work to weave an impression out of the stimuli. The incoming material was somewhat meager, but the mind is a great storehouse of associations that could be used to clothe the skeleton. Having woven an impression, the mind surveyed all that it had made and decided that it was very good. The critical faculty was lulled. We ceased to analyze and were conscious only of the impression as a whole, the warmth of the air, the scent of the grass, the gentle stir of the breeze, combined with the visual scene in one transcendent impression around us and within us. Associations emerging from their storehouse grew bolder. Perhaps we recalled the phrase, rippling laughter. Waves, ripples, laughter, gladness. The ideas jostled one another. Quite illogically, we were glad. Though what there can possibly be to be glad about in a set of ethereal vibrations no sensible person can explain. A mood of quiet joy suffused the whole impression. The gladness in ourselves was in nature, in the waves, everywhere. That's how it was. It was an illusion. Then why toy with it longer? These airy fancies which the mind, when we do not keep it severely in order, projects into the external world should be of no concern to the earnest seeker after truth. Get back to the solid substance of things, to the material of the water moving under the pressure of the wind and the force of gravitation in obedience to the laws of hydrodynamics. But the solid substance of things is another illusion. It too is a fancy projected by the mind into the external world. We have chased the solid substance from the continuous liquid to the atom, from the atom to the electron, and there we have lost it. But at least it will be said, we have reached something real at the end of the chase, the protons and electrons. Or, if the new quantum theory condemns these images as too concrete and leaves us with no coherent images at all, at least we have symbolic coordinates and momenta and Hamiltonian functions, devoting themselves with single-minded purpose to ensuring that QP minus PQ shall be equal to IH over 2 pi. I have tried to show that by following this course we reach a cyclic scheme which, from its very nature, can only be a partial expression of our environment. It is not reality, but the skeleton of reality. Actuality has been lost in the exigencies of the chase. Having first rejected the mind as a worker of illusion, we have in the end to return to the mind and say, here are worlds well and truly built on a basis more secure than your fanciful illusions. But there is nothing to make any one of them an actual world. Please choose one and weave your fanciful images into it. That alone can make it actual. We have torn away the mental fancies to get at the reality beneath, only to find that the reality of that which is beneath is bound up with its potentiality of awakening these fancies. It is because the mind, the weaver of illusion, is also the only guarantor of reality, that reality is always to be sought at the base of illusion. Illusion is to reality as the smoke to the fire. I will not urge that hoary untruth, there is no smoke without fire, but it is reasonable to inquire whether, in the mystical illusions of man, there is not a reflection of an underlying reality. Arthur Eddington, 1927.
Call me stupid, but I don't know what the hell that was about. All right. So, like I said, environmental puzzles are littered around this world, and there was one right at the very start of the game. Right here. And if we line it up right with the door... There's one there. There's also one right here. And while we're here, this looks oddly like those panels that we found. We can actually interact with this, and now that we know the rule, we can only pass by one side. Where's the end? Oh, there's the end. Why? I don't understand why that's false. One side. All of these have now been passed on one side. Alright, the line between those two triangles have been touched on one side. Those have been touched on one side. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to edit that. That took me way too fucking long. That opens up this over here. We can see the start of an environmental puzzle. Now this one's kind of tricky because if we solve it, and then line up the puzzle in the background with these flowers, we can't actually get onto the line to connect it over here because the line is white. So we have to fail the puzzle. Once we fail it, there's our puzzle. But now, for the puzzle completion, we need to actually solve this and leave it solved. So there we go. There's also a couple more up on the ramparts we can see. Now, I should probably make it clear here that I'm not going to be collecting every environmental puzzle in the game. It requires a lot of work and a lot of patience and a lot of time. But I will go ahead and get easy ones like this. Oops. Not standing in the right spot. There we go. So, we'll probably get the majority of them, but we're definitely going to get all the audio logs. So I'm just going to get the environmental puzzles in the places that we've already been. And then I'll do the rest of them naturally. So if we head back onto the top of the shed, this yellow vase here, or whatever it is, will line up with the yellow door frame. There's another one. And by the way, these pillars keep track of the ones that you have found. So if they're grayed out, it indicates that you haven't found them. And if they're lit up like this, it means you have. So there is kind of a tracking system in the game for things for that. And if we head down, is there a way to... I might have to head down a level. So there's one here in the reflection of the water. And if we head all the way to the very top, find that one. while I'm out here in this sandy area, I do believe there is one right over here, very cleverly hidden in the sand. And I think that's it. It's easier to see if you're on the rock. And just to go ahead and finish out this area, let's go ahead and do these pink trees, because this is its own little optional puzzle area right here. So this is another puzzle where the solution is in the environment. So these kind of look like tree branches, and there's a tree here. And the focal point here seems to be this apple. So if we go where the apple should be, right there, that works. Let's follow the cable of the next one. We got the same situation here, but now we have to look at it and find out which way we need to look at. There's a broken branch right here, which is reflected here on the end of the puzzle. So we're looking at the tree the right way. So we want to go basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the left. And again, same thing, but now we have branches kind of crisscrossing each other. This one looks to be 7 from the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now the broken branch is reflected on this side of the tree, so we need to be looking at the other side. So the apple is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the right. Now this one is really tricky because there's no apple. What we have are 3 cracked branches. What we want to do is we want to look and see which branches are not reflected in the puzzle. So the one on the left is reflected. The one in the middle is reflected. The one in front is not. So the apple, by process of elimination, should be right here, which means we want to go 3 from the middle. Right? Yeah. And then this gate opens up, and we find our apple thief with the broken branch, enjoying a little snack, you know? This is just a little side area. I don't know if it's like concept art for the game or just supposed to make you think, like, what the hell is going on here? Is this a real world? Is this some sort of simulation? What the hell is this? So instead of tackling the next area, which is this over here, I'm going to go ahead and just finish off this episode with a couple of audio cassettes. Because honestly, I think the audio cassettes are one of the most fun parts of this game. Actually, while we're down here, is it over here? Yeah. If we approach this tractor from this side, maybe further away. There's one there. we head in this pedestal, there's an audio log right here. For some reason I thought maybe there was two, but I could be wrong. So let's go ahead and listen.
Your question is the most difficult in the world. It is not a question I can answer simply with yes or no. I am not an atheist. I do not know if I can define myself as a pantheist. The problem involved is too vast for our limited minds. May I not reply with a parable? The human mind, no matter how highly trained, cannot grasp the universe. We are in the position of a little child entering a huge library filled with books in many languages. The child knows someone must have written those books. It does not know how. It does not understand the languages in which they are written. The child dimly suspects a mysterious order in the arrangement of the books, but doesn't know what that is. That, it seems to me, is the attitude of the most intelligent human toward God. Albert Einstein, 1930.
Okay, and with that last audio dialogue, I think we'll go ahead and call this an episode. So next time, we're going to go ahead and tackle this desert area where we're going to learn a whole new set of rules, which will help us in the future, and activate a new laser. So I hope to see you there, and thanks very much for watching.